I'm also very happy and glad to have the various participants, not only from Ramratna International School, but various other schools joining us today for the 25th, for the 35th talk at Ramratna International School. It's an Aadharshila talk at Ramratna International School. This is Dr. Jaya Parekh, the principal of RRIS, extending all of you a very warm welcome. It is said, very rightly said by Miss Sarah Caldwell, that learn everything you can, anytime you can, from anyone you can. There will always come a time when you will be grateful that you did. This is the objective of Ramratna International School Aadharshila Talks, where we would like all of us to come together and learn from different people, learn from educators, listen to different perspectives, different narratives, and change and create new narratives, which will help us do our best as an individual and as an educator. Now, before we move on to the talk today, I would like to introduce today's eminent guest and the speaker, Mr. Willibrord. He is an educator, teacher trainer, and a motivational speaker. He has contributed widely to schools, teachers, students throughout his career, and currently drives impact through his online initiative called Teaching Champions. I've personally been attending his sessions, and they are just so resourceful, so impactful, very enriching. I would request all the teachers to attend his Teaching Champions sessions. I hope he will share the information about that too during the session or towards the end of the session. Mr. George has been certified on several education techniques and has conducted trainings for teachers globally. He is known for his high energy talks, straight from the heart sessions, high impact workshops, technology integration, quick thinking, and creativity. He has been awarded the Innovative School Leader Award by Infosys founder, Mr. Narayan Murthy. He is so dedicated to making it easier for teachers to do their best, be resourceful for themselves and for their pupils. His passion for training, rather empowering, I would say, empowering teachers is very inspiring. I personally admire him for his enthusiasm towards his purpose, towards his passion, as well as his innovative ideas towards imparting meaningful education and efficient functioning of schools. So, dear friends, get ready to do some thinking, learning, and some soul searching in this invigorating session by Mr. Willibrord George, which would help us become better teachers and more confident individuals. It says, the title of the talk today is, I think, therefore I am. So there's a lot to think about. Thinking leads to beautiful things for all of us teachers to become better as educators and as individuals. I hereby now invite Mr. Willibrord George to take over. Thank you, sir, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Jaya, madam. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. Just I'm doing again a final check. If you can hear my voice, type yes in the comment box. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. I have I just want to give you a very quick orientation to what my setup looks like. I have a screen here. So if I'm looking at this side, I'm looking at the Google Meet chats. If I'm looking at this side, I'm looking at the YouTube chats, and I'm monitoring the YouTube stream as well as a couple of the other scenes that I have. And if I'm looking at this side, that's also looking at some notes that I have just to make sure. So, and if I'm looking straight up at the camera, then I can actually see none of this data, but I can at least maintain some eye contact with you. So now that you know what the setup looks like, I'm sure we'll all be able to have a good time. I wanted to, every time I get an opportunity to speak to teachers or speak to parents or speak to students or pretty much speak to anyone, I always try and see if I can in some way contribute towards them becoming better people, towards them becoming more effective individuals. I think teachers today, if we are able to become better as people, become better as individuals, I think that will also mean that we start becoming better as teachers. We start becoming better as facilitators. We start becoming better as leaders. And that is what we really need to be doing at all points in time. Especially now, right? If you look at the pandemic and the way things have changed, like most schools are not getting fees, most parents are not in a position to pay, teachers are not getting full salaries in many schools, right? In many schools, and that is causing tremendous amount of stress. In fact, there are many husbands or there are many wives and spouses have lost their jobs, and there's um, such a feeling of depletion and devaluation everywhere. And I think that is dangerous, because that also affects your decisions, and that affects the quality of your life, and that affects the morale of your students. So I think there is nothing more needed or more important today than for us teachers to become psychologically, emotionally, and mentally fit. We've got to be fighting fit in that situation, so that the happiness, the joy, and the effectiveness that we have as individuals, right, that we have as people, can rub off on our students. Could you please use the chat box right now and tell me what do you feel? What do you feel about my opening comments? And then I would like to set the course running about a few things that I'm going to be sharing with you today. What do you think about teachers, and what do you think about their mental states and their mental models when it comes to education, when it comes to children? Go ahead, guys, and use that chat box, because when you type and when you let your emotions out, when you let your thoughts out, you feel part of this of what we're doing, and that really allows me to go out there and work more in what you want. Thank you, Jaya Madam, for your feedback. Change management, exactly, right? I think we are in a situation where we are in probably the world's biggest change management experiment, everybody together at one time. And teachers have also proved that they're really resistant. Thank you, Jaya Madam, for that, to take on any challenge. Exactly, right? The point is adaptation. The vice principal was talking about adaptation. She would say they're highly adaptable. So clearly, at some point, there have been some teachers who've actually been able to adapt and evolve and really get to the level of challenge that it requires, whereas many other teachers would have fallen short of that. So what is it that separated these two people? What is the thinking that happens in their brain, and is there something that I can actually learn from it? Sumedha is talking about the flipped classroom. Exactly, right? Getting so much more done by the student and so much less done by the teacher, rather the role of the teacher is moving from that sage on stage to the guide on side. Rainey is talking about they're doing their best, but they still feel the lack of connection with kids. Exactly, right? That lack of connection. How do we bring that connection in? That is something we need to talk about. Basu is saying teachers are going through a very tough time. They have technical challenges, they have emotional turmoil, and they have social adaptation. It's all coming together, and everyone has this. Everyone is in this together. There's acceptance of change is a big problem. They feel trapped in their potential. Gregory Hendricks, I think that's amazing, because so many of them have so much potential, but they feel trapped. And that word trapped is such a depressing word, because there's potential there, there's positivity there, there's so much you can do, but then you feel trapped in that, right? Perseverance is to remain connected to the students and to give their best. That's what Usha Pujari says. And readiness to learn and time management. I think perfect. I think this is what we are, right? This is where teachers are today. This is where all of us are here today. And I wanted to share with you 16 statements that you would have heard perhaps several times. 16 statements that you would have heard several times. And perhaps I would want to add a dimension to those 16 statements. Okay? And consider these statements as little chutkula. Consider these statements as little proverbs, and we call them the presuppositions. Consider these statements to be presuppositions, where you have to keep that in mind as one of your filters every time that you are dealing with your students, your teachers, other adults, and other significant other people in your family. Sumedha Chakrabarti is saying the isolated feeling is creeping on every one of us. So the need of interconnectivity is needed. Exactly. And Anjana is talking about the urge of learning and to come up with the expectations, not only of students, but also parents. Bingo. You've become a goldfish today, right? You've come smack in the middle of every living room that is there today. And parents are also watching, and everyone else is watching you. And there's so much mounting pressure, and you may not even be getting the feedback, and you don't know how it is. So I totally understand. I totally understand how you feel. I feel the same way right now. And because you have so beautifully and so willingly and so openly added all these comments here, it's allowing me to connect to you. So I made this request. I held my hands out there and I said, please send me that chat so that we can build that connection. I only see your names, but I can see your ideas. And that is what we're talking about. So 16 super powerful presuppositions that you need to keep in your head when you are dealing with children, when you're dealing with change. And I really hope that this allows you to become an emotionally stronger person. All training need not be about just making a teacher better as a trainer. All training need not be about just helping the teacher become transactionally better. There are trainings and there are situations where we need to look at making people better people and more effective people. That's what this session is all about. If you're ready to learn, type RTR in the comment box. RTR for ready to learn. RTR in the comment box for ready to learn. And thank you, Champa Maurya. That was really fast. Thank you, Pavani. Thank you, Vandana. Brilliant. Here is my first presupposition for you. The first presupposition is there is no failure, only feedback. Think about this. I'm inviting you to take this into your head and install it into your head like the way you install a software. Okay? There is no failure, only feedback. There is no failure, only feedback. Just, this is perhaps one of the most well-known, beliefs, that there is no failure, only feedback. Because the minute you adopt this and the minute you start living this kind of a belief, you are giving yourself the permission to try things out, to experiment. And I think most importantly, you're also allowing yourself to make mistakes. You see, today, everyone is worried. Everyone is upset. Everyone is, they're afraid of losing their job, or they're afraid of losing respect, or they're afraid of losing, their image. But if you have this attitude that there is no failure, only feedback, you will be able to open yourself to so many new experiences. If you have this belief, you would look at students today in your online classes, and you will actually understand that there is no failure, there is only feedback. If the student is not doing well, that's feedback, right? It's not failure on your part. If a parent is not able to learn or get to understand exactly, it's not failure on your part. You want to try different things, right? It is something that will help you develop yourself to move from strategy to strategy, right? It allows you to change and adapt your approach, right? The idea is to build excellence and competence. Go back to your classrooms, look at yourselves as a teacher, look at yourself as a spouse, look at yourself as a parent, look at yourself as a colleague, and keep this in your mind. There is no failure, only feedback, okay? Gregory says it's a phase that allows you to modify yourself. Indeed, feed forward, growth from feedback. Install it, guys, in your head. There is no failure, only feedback. The next thing I wanted to share with you, that was the first big, sentence or presupposition. There is no failure, there's only feedback. The second one that we're talking about is quite interesting as well. The second one says the map is not the territory. The map is not the territory. The map is not the territory. What that means is there is a difference between reality and the symbolic representation. There is a difference between the reality and the symbolic representation of that reality. You see, when you're going through, I don't know if you've heard of this thing that everything does not seem to be the way it appears, right? Jo dikhta hai, wo shayad waisa nahi hai. That is what it means, right? So you're actually talking about the understanding that my experience of a reality, my experience of a real situation is different from your experience of the real situation. So I'll give you an example. Like 3 of your friends went to Canada for a holiday, for example, or you went to whatever, you went to Lonavala for a holiday. And you have the the three friends have three different memories of that trip. They have three different feelings about that trip. They have three different emotional responses from that trip. So what does that mean when I tell you, how was your trip to Lonavala? It actually means that you are not responding to actually what happened in Lonavala from a reality perspective, but you are responding based on your map, your mental map of the experience of reality. And I think that is so powerful. Powerful from a teaching perspective, powerful from being a super amazing school leader perspective, and so many other perspectives. You have to understand that the map is not the reality. What that means is, as an individual, when you're going through all these different change situations, when you're going through all these challenging situations, as an individual, it could also mean that while you're experiencing this reality that is happening to you, you may be adding generalizations, deletions, and distortions in that map, in that memory, in that symbolic representation of the event that happened. And maybe you're responding to that, and you're not just, you're not just being very factual about it. So keeping this presupposition of the map is not the territory, I think it allows you to challenge your own beliefs. It allows you to challenge your own maps, and then it allows you to change those maps if those maps are not serving you. Remember, your head, your brain, your emotions, your resources, everything is there to serve you, for you to become a better mother, for you to become a better father, for you to become a better teacher, a better leader, a better manager, right? So think back and see what's in your head. What is that self-talk you're telling yourself? What are those things that constantly keep coming up that you feel is pulling you down or allows a different meaning for what you're talking about? So once you realize that the map is not the territory, you suddenly become open. You become open to other people's maps. You become open to other people's views of the world. You become respectful. And that, as Gregory says, you're not fencing your thoughts. You're allowing it to go out, and you're allowing more thoughts to come in. And that's going to help you develop such strong and powerful relationships. So the map is not the territory, guys. The next presupposition we're talking about is we respond to our maps of the territory, which means we are never responding to actually what happened. So many situations at home, you'll see husband said this, wife said this, child said this, father-in-law said this, mother-in-law said this. You're actually not responding to what was said. You're responding to the symbolic representation or the maps that you have in your head about what actually happened. Think about it from a classroom setting. You have so many children in your class, and all of them are of various needs. They have various needs, various academic needs. And some of them are able to, achieve well, some of them get it faster, some of them need more time, and they have different needs. And all these things, depending on the way you have installed those things in your head, that's going to get you to start behaving in a particular way. There are so many teachers who says, oh, third B, I have to go. Oh my God, that class. Oh my, or ninth A. Oh my God. Any other class is fine. Ninth A mat bhejo. So what are those maps that you have created? And when you realize that your response is coming not from the territory, but from the maps of the territory, that's when you start realizing that you are in a position to change those maps. You are in a position to figure out what is it that requires to be redesigned in that map. And that gives you the power and gives you the freedom and gives you the flexibility to go out there and make that change that is absolutely necessary. Now, the next one is very, very powerful. Priyanka is talking about breaking barriers. Jaya ma'am is talking about starting afresh without biases and prejudices. See, it's so important. Like these maps are our biases. There's so much of bias that we come, within. We all talk about, oh, I'm not judgmental. I don't judge. I don't do this, and but we are all so biased. We are also inherently biased, and there's nothing wrong in being biased, because biases have been created to a certain extent to keep us safe and to keep us protected, and to allow us to live longer and stuff like that. But then being aware of these biases allows us to start thinking deeply about so many different things that otherwise I may not have thought about. Right, exactly, right? And this is really powerful. I actually think like this is super, super powerful. The meaning of communication is the response I get. The meaning of communication is the response I get. How many times you've had a conversation with a friend, or you've had a conversation with your husband or your wife or your principal or your children, how many times you've actually had a conversation with them and you're totally frustrated. You're like, damn, this person doesn't understand anything I'm saying. This is not what I'm saying. And you actually feel that you've explained your point of view, and they still don't get it. And then you say, what's wrong with that person? What's wrong with you? Why don't you understand what I'm saying, right? But if you really think about it, and if you change that idea in your head, that the meaning of communication is the response I get. So if the response is that person doesn't understand, it just means I'm not communicating well. It just means I haven't tried every strategy in communication that I know. It just means that I start thinking that, oh, is that person wrong? The more you feel like that person is wrong, that person can't understand, we then are thinking that we are smarter than them. I think when we go back and we tell ourselves every time we get into a situation where people are not understanding or I feel stuck, if I want to get unstuck, I tell myself the meaning of communication is the response I get. I think that is really, really powerful. That allows you to completely become responsible for the way you communicate. You see, there is only one thing you can control on this planet. There's only one thing you can control. At least you can try to control, and that is yourself, your feelings, your emotions, your attitudes, your values, and your beliefs, and your behaviors. Your response, not your reaction, your response. And when you start feeling that you can control this is the only thing I can attempt to control, then you start feeling that you are powerful, and that you have choices, and that you have options, and that you can change the behavior. You can change the response I get. If you're not getting the response that you want, change the way you communicate. Bring it to a classroom setting. If your kids are not understanding what you're saying, don't go and say, oh, but those 5 children are understanding. They are understanding. If those other children can't understand, that means I'm teaching well because those 5 are understanding. The others are not understanding. That means there's something wrong with them. No, the meaning of communication is the response I get. So think through and see if this is something that can help you live a better, more effective life. Let's go to the 5th one. And it's starting to get heavier, and it's starting to get even better and juicy. Let me know in the comment box below, what do you think about what I've said so far? Jaya ma'am is talking about taking responsibility for the impact of your communication, whether positive or negative. What is the biggest fear in the world? They say the biggest fear in the world is, does anyone know what is the biggest fear in the world? The biggest fear in the world. Vaibhav Mitani is talking about change, right? Change, exactly. That is so powerful. What do you think about, I've said today, being judged? One of the biggest fears in the world, Gregory saying, is being judged. Priyanka is to accept a mistake. Sumedha feels it's about insecurity, rejected by others. Rejected by others. Failures. Jaya ma'am is talking about being rejection. I mean, so deep, right? Rejection. Our children are coming to us for acceptance and love and nurturance, right? And when they feel rejected, chhod diya sir aapne mujhe, chhod diya. Right? Just think about that feeling of dejection. Dejection. A person dejected, loss of hope, hopelessness. Right? I think one of the greatest fears that are happening, along with all the ones you've spoken about, is also the fear of responsibility. The fear of responsibility. Ask a 20-year-old guy, shadi karega? No. Right? It's the fear of responsibility. And then they say it's the fear of public speaking, imagine, right? So the fear of responsibility. So taking charge of responsibility, taking the responsibility of my communication is such a powerful thing, okay? Thank you, Rishi Raj, and thank you, Debadyuti, for not being able to, live up to expectations. Exactly. I mean, give yourself a break, guys. You guys are so amazing. Look at the ideas you're putting in. Look at the time you're spending. Just look at the quality of your thoughts, right? Those are the kind of teachers we want that our children to live with and our children to learn from. The next thing, the next presupposition is the element in a system with the most flexibility will exercise the greatest influence. Please read that again. The element in a system with the most flexibility will exercise the greatest influence. Think about it. Every system, you are also a part of your system, of any system, right? Think about it as a group of people. Let's say Jaya madam has come and taken a meeting, and there are 25 different managers in that meeting. And one manager or two managers are very flexible. Ha, madam, this is fine. Ha, madam, ye karenge. Ye karenge. Ha, madam, ye karenge. And so I may not be saying it in a very positive way right now, but you have to also think about it from a positive method, from a positive manner. Now, the system, the element, so one or two or three of those teachers, right? And Swagata is saying adaptability is the essence, but the most flexible element in that system, let's say this is that one teacher, will be able to exert the greatest influence on that principal. So when you have this installed in your head, you as a principal, a manager, a teacher, a spouse, a significant other, a father, a mother, a daughter-in-law, you understand that if I become most flexible within my system, I will be able to exercise greatest influence. And that's what you want to be, right? You want to become someone who can influence others. Influence, not force, not push, not create compulsive situations, but to be able to influence. That's your job, influence. And if you become an influential leader, influential manager, influential teacher, influential husband, you are able to live a more effective and happy life. Gregory Hendricks is saying, being flexible makes you influential. Jaya ma'am is saying, rigid team members don't influence others and hence become less crucial members. So powerful. so powerful. Go back, teachers, and think in your last teachers meeting, in your last change management situation, in your last parent-teacher talk, in your last online class, who or what was that element that exercised the greatest influence on you? Think about this. You have a class filled with 30 children, and 4 children or 5 children were learning so fast, they're able to understand everything you said. And so what do? You start going faster and faster. You go faster and faster. And what has happened is those children have got you to do what they want, because you are now pacing and leading with them, and you may have left the others because they are exercising the greatest influence on you. So as a teacher, when you install this idea in your head, every time you start behaving in a particular way, you can go back and reflect and say, who is it or what is it in the system that is influencing, that is creating a great influence in me? And that allows you again to regain control and be more open and be more effective with everybody in your group. So need to have immense patience. Moha Gupta is saying, yeah, I can recall it very vividly, is what Gregory is talking about, right? And now the next important presupposition that all teachers and all leaders need to have is people are not broken. People are not broken. They work perfectly well, actually. People are not broken. They work perfectly well. What does that actually mean, right? I mean, you need to think about it more from a personal problem or a problem in your professional life. Maybe a loved one has been experiencing a problematic issue, right? You got to think about it from that way. What's actually happening is these people have, as I said, all these mental maps, and they're responding to those maps, which actually means that this slowly begins to say that this comes around the idea of learned helplessness. Learned helplessness. मुझे technology नहीं आता, मुझे Google slide नहीं आता, मुझे Zoom नहीं आता. I mean, I am a very good teacher one-on-one. Put children in a classroom, boom, I can go and I can teach them. But ये online नहीं होता, connection नहीं होता, मजा नहीं आता. No, I can't do this. My son can do this. I can't do it. Think about that, right? People are not broken. People are not broken. In fact, they work perfectly well. What this means is all those mental maps, all those maps that they had in their mind about technology, about teaching, about being a great teacher online or whatever, is working so well to get this person from avoiding to do what it is needed to do to become a super effective person. Think of the self-talk. Think of what is happening in the head. Think of how the brain is working. And when you realize that people are not broken, but they work perfectly, as a leader, as a school principal, as a manager, you are able to connect to this person. And you are able to slowly influence this person to change their mental model, to change their mental map, to change the map of the territory. That is what you need to think about. So, the minute you say people are broken, then it just means that unka fault hai, mera kuch fault nahi hai. And that distance is just going to grow and grow and grow and grow. All right? So Gregory is talking about unless you travel the path, you don't reach the destination. Absolutely true. Jayamam is talking about self-pity and self-deprecation, an attitude of resistance to the growth mindset. Very true, right? Very, very true. So think about that. The next big idea that you could probably instill, in your head is we can all model excellence and even genius. Okay, Jaya madam, absolute perfect timing about the growth mindset. We can always model excellence and even genius if we break the task into small enough chunks. Chunking. It's called chunking. It's one of the most powerful methods of learning. Chunking. And this is what most people are not able to do. Most people are not able to do. उनको बड़ा बड़ा काम तोड़ तोड़ के छोटा छोटा काम करने को नहीं आता है. They don't understand that a book, 500 page book, if I tell you 500 page का book लिखो, you'll be like 500 page का book नहीं होगा यार, बहुत बड़ा है 500 page. Suppose I tell you एक काम करो 10 chapter लिखो, एक chapter 50 page का होना चाहिए. You'll be like 50 पेज का एक चैप्टर चलो ट्राई करता हूं, बट 50 पेज कैसे लिखूं? अच्छा 50 पेज में से फर्स्ट 5 पेजेस शुड बी अबाउट कैरेक्टर, सेकंड 5 पेजेस शुड बी अबाउट सेटिंग, थर्ड 5 पेजेस शुड बी अबाउट प्रॉब्लम एंड लास्ट 20 पेजेस शुड बी अबाउट सॉल्यूशन. अभी कर सकता है 5 पेज कैन यू राइट अबाउट कैरेक्टर? 5 पेज कैरेक्टर, ठीक है. तू एक पेज 5 कैरेक्टर रख तेरे बुक में, 5 कैरेक्टर एंड हैव 1 कैरेक्टर पर पेज. कैन यू राइट 1 कैरेक्टर, 1 पेज 1 कैरेक्टर? कैन यू राइट? यस आई कैन राइट. बट कितना लिखना पड़ेगा? 600 वर्ड्स, 500 वर्ड्स. एक काम कर, फॉन्ट साइज बड़ा, अब लिख सकता है. यस राइट. व्हाट आर यू डूइंग? राइट, यू आर ब्रेकिंग थिंग्स डाउन इनटू डूएबल चंक्स. And then when you chunk everything together and put it all together and bring it all together, you will be able to see that so many, you've done actually so much, right? So remember, you can model excellence. So look at those teachers, look at those managers, look at those people who are doing incredibly well in their life and find out how are they doing it. What are they telling themselves? What are those mental maps that they have? What are those questions they're saying? What is the self-talk that they have? And can you also start doing that? And then can you break it down into the small little bits? And then can you get doing that? And that's how you will actually learn, and that's how you will grow. So moving forward, we have to understand that the mind and body are part of the same system. The mind kidhar hai? Mind kidhar hai? We don't know where the mind is because that's not an organ. And body, this is the body, right? They're part of the same system and they influence each other. Think of a situation in your life, right? When you were in a happy place. Suppose I tell you, close your eyes, everybody, and think about this time when you were in a happy place. Like maybe at a beach, or maybe during your wedding, or maybe during your birthday, or maybe when you had your first child, or maybe when you got your first job, or maybe when you got your first salary, or maybe when you got into a plane for the first time, or maybe when you went to a fancy restaurant for the first time, or maybe when you got that solitaire diamond when you always wanted. Or think about that moment and really think about it, right? Go back into that memory, go back into that space. Think about the sounds, the smells, the temperature. Think about the setting. Think about what you are wearing. Hear what happened in that situation. Hear how they are talking to you. Hear, just when you go there, your body takes you there. Your mind takes you there. It shifts your energy. It shifts your feeling. There's so much mirror neuron thing happening there, right? All that visualization helps you change your state. It helps you change your state. And that's what you want to be. That's why they talk about exercise, and that's why they talk about, doing, active things. It changes your state. If you notice, I'm actually standing and taking this session. That's why I can move like so fast, right? I'm standing and taking this session. Why? Because when I stand and take this session like this, it puts me in a different state. It puts me in a state of energy. It puts me in a state of excitement. It puts me in a state of contribution, that I'm here to work for you, right? So think about that. Your mind and your body, the same system. So think about that for your children as well. When you're taking your class, you're working with children, mind and body, same system, and they influence each other. The next important installation in your head, okay? And as you're thinking about this, let it seep right into your head that it is always better to have choice than lack of it. It is always better to have choice than lack of it. Remember, as a principal, as a teacher, as a spouse, as a father, as a mother, as whoever you are, as a businessman, give choice to people. Adults want choice, and children may require choices too. Give them choices, because we always want to know that there is a choice. And the problems come when people think there is no choice. The problem comes when people fail to see a choice. The problem comes when people get stuck. They get trapped and they feel powerless. They feel choiceless. And you don't want to be that. I don't want you to be that. I want you to be a person who has immense choices. You want to look, you want to see all the choices you have. You want to be more open. You want to understand that you have choices. And those are the choices you make, because your life, your present, is because of the choices you've made, not because you're like a ship without a rudder just floating around wherever the wind takes you. All right? So think through that in terms of choices. Yeah? Thank you. The next important point is, whenever you're talking to children, whenever you're talking to adults, whenever you're talking to whoever, you want to always add the number of choices. Don't take choices away. Give them choices, especially when you're leading with children, especially when you're working with teachers today. Give more choices. Try and do Google Meet. Nahi ho raha hai. Try Zoom. Nahi ho raha hai. Try WhatsApp video. Nahi ho raha hai. Try Padlet. Nahi ho raha hai. Try Zoom Classroom. Nahi ho raha hai. Try Google Classroom. Try ThingLink. Try Wakelet. Just give choices. People love choices. And you got to remember that most of the time, people feel they don't have choices. So if you're able to give choices, you're actually creating opportunity for people to become flexible. And those elements in the system that are more flexible exerts the greatest influence on you. So think about it, how they all work together very beautifully to ensure that you become a more effective and efficient person. Crazy big line, and it's very, very powerful. Gregory is talking about choices assist people to pick on as per his or her need. Jayamam is talking about flexibility and adaptability so that people can give free choices. Sumedha is talking about everyone loves flexibility and liberty. Exactly. Everyone loves it, but it's difficult. And when you speak to people, try and give as many choices as possible. I have 4 more sentences. 4 more sentences. It's 42 minutes from the time I've started talking. Well, not exactly from the time I've started talking. From the time this session is on. If you want to see the 4 more that I have right now, type bring it on in the comment box. If you want to see. If you don't want to see, type no, go away. But if you want to see, type BIO or bring it on. BIO or bring it on in the comment box, and I will bring it on. Okay, Pavani, new voice in the room, new voice Dipti, new voice Purva. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Bring it on, Somali. There you go. Tara, Nisha, Deepa, Bratati. Awesome, right? Ashok, Priyanka, Raini. So many new names there. Debasmita Ghosh, that's a new name. Right, Dipali Roy, new name. Bandara Ghost, that's another new name. Bring it on, guys. Thank you very much. Memory and imagination. Memory and imagination use the same neurological circuits. You got to understand that the brain is all part of this semantic, neurons and so many things happening there. But they use the memory and imagination uses the same neurological circuits as external sensory awareness. What is external sensory awareness? Your sense of taste, your sense of smell, your sense of touch, all that, right? Your 5 senses. And they powerfully influence our development. They powerfully influence our development, which means a lot of people say, "Mera first time hai, mere ko nahi aata hai. Mera first time hai, main nahi kar sakta. Nahi, maine kabhi kiya nahi hai, sir, mujhe nahi aata. Nahi, mujhe." Why? Because you are looking for memory. Thank you, Madhumira. You are looking for memory. Thanks, Maitri. You are looking for memory from your past. But you got to understand that memory and imagination, dono, memory and imagination are using the same brain. They're using the same circuit, which means if I can have stronger imagination, if I can have stronger imagination through observation, through understanding, through reading, it's almost like the same external sensory awareness experience that I have, I'm actually probably going to be able to actually achieve that outcome. And that's where all this positive psychology, all the visualization, visualize it before it actually happens, and all that comes through. And that works. That works. Muscle memory comes from doing something again and again and again. And imagination, as Einstein said, is equally or more powerful than education. And this is what they mean. This is what I mean. So go through and figure out, are you in your classrooms as teachers improving children's imaginations? Are you creating what-if situations? Are you giving potential situations for children to change their outcomes? Are you allowing children to take flexibility? Are you allowing children to get, to choose? Are you allowing them to decide where this is going to go? Imagination. Are you using words that inspire imagination? Think about, visualize. What if there is something? What if this happens? How come that happens but this doesn't happen? When this happens, what do you think would happen, right? So as a teacher, what you're doing is you are setting up the system, setting up the environment for children to rewire their brains and focus more on imagination rather than memory. I hope you find that interesting, and I hope that you start working on that. Remember, memory and imagination use the same neurological circuits as external sensory awareness, and they're powerfully interlinked and influence each other. Next, absolutely next big sentence for you to keep in your mind. It says people are more than their actions, words, and emails or roles or whatever, right? So a lot of us think that people are about actions. Uska action dekho, uska words dekho, uska behavior dekho, uska role dekho. Like, if you have a guard, a security guard, kahan jana hai, kisse milne ka, jaya madam, sorry, jaya madam available nahi, appointment hai, kaun hai aapka naam, card nahi, bola nahi, kisne kahan se aaye, look at you up and down like that. He's a role. He's a gatekeeper. He's a security guard. His job is to make sure that everybody is safe. His job is to keep you out of the school. He's just doing a role. And most of the time, we go yell at them. We go with a chip on the shoulder saying, hey, I'm a trainer, I don't need to sign the register. A lot of us are like that, right? But people are more than their actions. People are more than their words, and people are more than their roles. The minute you believe this, the minute you keep this supposition in your head, you start thinking, well, it's okay, whatever. If this is what happened, let me go find out. What is the essence of that person? I think Gregory was talking about essence. What is the essence of that person? How do I connect with that person? Remember all the other suppositions, the feedback, yeah? The result of communication is the feedback I get, right? So think about that. And that keeps you really interesting. This is a very powerful statement, and you want to keep that supposition in your head. Keep it in your head. This is resistance indicates a lack of rapport. R-A-P-P-O-R, rapport. R-A-P-P-O-R is O-R-T is rapport. You don't pronounce the last T because it's a French word, rapport. And just for fun, I can give you what a full form of rapport is, right? R-A-P-P-O-R-T, the full form of rapport. And if somebody could type that in the comment box, that would be really nice for everybody else. Really, all people prefer people. Wait, really, all people prefer other people resembling themselves. Really, all people prefer other people resembling themselves. Yeah. Thank you, Raini Pantri. That's super fast. Really, obviously you knew that earlier. Really, all people prefer other people resembling themselves. Think about that. Get into rapport. There is mirror neurons in your brain and my brain. There's mirror neurons. If you stand up and attend my session the way I'm talking now, if you get into the same, emotional state, if you get into the same physical state of me talking. Have you seen boxers, how they work? They work like this, and they're always mirroring each other. If a boxer does this, the other guy does this. If a boxer does this, they're always mirroring each other, right? You get onto the same wavelength. Exceptionally powerful idea. Wavelength. Teachers need to develop incredible rapport with your students and with others. When you work with them, when you spend time with them, when you give them things that push them, their imagination, their creativity, and when you start inspiring them and you start being flexible with them. Remember, when you are being flexible with your students, you are exerting influence. And that's what we want, right? We want to be able to exercise influence, different strokes for different folks. Perfect, Gregory Hendricks. Absolutely beautiful point there. Kanchan is talking about, really all people prefer. Yes, correct. Thank you very much. So this is what we're talking about, right? Look for resistance. Who are those people who are flexible with you? You are in rapport. Who are those people who are not flexible with you? Go and check. Is there a rapport problem? Do they understand you? Are you understanding them? Are you being able to mirror them? Are you reaching the same wavelength? What can you do differently to arrive at the same wavelength with them? When you're in the same wavelength, that's when you're creating rhythm and music. That's when you're creating, what is that word in physics? I keep forgetting. Resonance. And that's what you want to be. You want to be resonating. Thank you, Jaya Madam. You want to be resonating, with each other. The next important thing is, and this is where everyone tells me, bas kar, Willy, bas kar. Ye nahi hota hai. Harmony, correct. Ye nahi hota hai. I want you to, really think, really hard. Think about your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, your cousin, your brother, sister, son, daughter, teenage son, teenage daughter. Think about them, and then close your eyes and tell yourself, right? Tell yourself, behind every behavior, there is a positive intention. Behind every behavior, there is a positive intention. And this becomes very powerful. And this becomes very difficult. Prajakta, this is different from whatever happens for good. No. This actually means that behind every behavior of somebody in your life, there is a positive intention. Matlab, you are actually feeling, and you are actually believing, and you are actually finding the positive intention, irada of the other person. Positive intention. You are seeing the positive intention behind any and every behavior. If a teacher bitches behind your back and talks to the principal and gets you out of the school and gets you fired, is there a positive intention there? And this is why, Rishi Raj, I told you this is the most difficult thing to deal with, because people can see apparently negative behavior, but they're not able to see the positive intention. My invitation to you is to go back, sit down, and ask yourself the question, because question direct thoughts, and thoughts bring in your emotions, and emotions changes your state. You want to sit back and look at every. I'll tell you, one of my friends, it was his wedding anniversary, and he went very beautifully, and he bought her a beautiful golden necklace, or something like that, like a pendant, and gave it her 38 or 40,000 rupees. And 5 times after that, his wife was telling him, यार अगर तूने ये नहीं लिया होता, मेरे लिए फोन लिया होता, या मेरे लिए लैपटॉप लिया होता, या मेरे लिए कैमरा लिया होता, तो बेटर था. So Let's look at the scenario. The scenario is wife telling him something which he looks at it and says, it's not really the best thing for you to tell me right now. So it's a negative kind of behavior, apparently negative behavior. But if you go back, if he sits back and thinks, what is the positive intention of that behavior? What is the positive intention of that behavior? Because whatever she said, there is a positive intention. I know there is a positive intention. मुझे positive intention नहीं दिख रहा है. Let me go and find out what the positive intention is. And when you start thinking that way, when you start asking yourself these questions, you will find the positive intention. And the minute you find this positive intention, you'll be like, wow, अब मैं समझता हूँ. Now I understand. Now I realize. Now I understand why she's saying what she's saying. That is what we want to do. Right? So think about that. Behind every behavior, there is a positive intention. The second last one, we're at 55 minutes. I will stop at 60. Every subjective experience is made of two parts, the content and the structure. Always keep that in mind. Every subjective experience is made of two parts, the content and the structure. Okay, so you want to think about how people are able to do something, and in that situation, what is the content and what is the structure. Okay, so this is, kind of a you start looking at every scenario and situation in your life from these two buckets. What's the content? What is that person telling me? What is the behavior? What is the impact of that conversation? Versus what is the structure of what is happening. Every time this person comes into the meeting, every time the principal says, okay, does anyone have questions? This person will always have one question. This person will always put other people down. So one, there is content and then there is structure. So what do? Start thinking about the structure. Can you change this structure? Yeah, I can change. The next time the principal says, any questions? Before that person puts a hand up, zoop, I put my hand up and say, yeah, I have a question. You broke the structure. What this allows you to do, it allows you to dissociate yourself from what is happening there, and it allows you to look at what new structures you can put within that system, within that environment, that allows you to do better and that allows you to perform better. And the last one, people have all the resources they need. Do not think, even for a second, that ये इसका बस का बात नहीं है, ये नहीं कर सकती. People have all the resources they need. They have all the emotional resources. They have all the, the intelligence that they require. And all we need to do as teachers and as facilitators is we need to be able to encourage them to go out and find it. Encourage them to experiment with different things. Encourage them to be able to take complete control of their own lives and to make great stuff out of it. Do not think that you need to give them something. Do not think that ye nahi kar sakta hai, this person's level is this much only. No, people have all the resources they need. Our job as teachers and facilitators is to allow them to see those resources and take those resources to elicit that out and to get them to become effective and high-performing individuals. So that's pretty much it from me today. 15 or 16 presuppositions which you can install in your head so that you can take these new software or this new firmware and walk around life looking to be super productive and super effective, and something that allows you to run the day rather than the day running you. Thank you, everybody. It's been exactly 58 minutes, 59 minutes from the time we've had this conversation, and I'm really glad to be part of this session. I'm done. If I don't know what the if anyone has any questions, any thoughts, you can put it on your chat box. If there's any feedback for the session, what did you think of this session? If there's any ideas you want to share, anything you want me to know, because remember, there are no failures. It's just feedback.
Yes, Mr. George, it has been such an invigorating session. I hope I'm audible to you.
Yes, you
You
are, ma'am.
you gave us 16 bulbs. Now it's up to us to install them in ourselves and start thinking with a new thought process. You gave completely different perspectives, whether it is about being grateful for what we have, believing that everything is for good, is with a good intention, valuing everything, having that attitude of positivity, taking responsibility of communication, being empathetic, valuing people, knowing that they have what they need. So I think as team leaders, as team members, it's important to uh, bring these thoughts in our lives, not just understand their meaning, but bring it in the way we are living this life, whether it's personal life or professional. I think every single statement that you have chosen is so impactful. It was a completely different pattern of the session that you have chosen, and I'm so thankful for breaking that cycle of the old way a talk is delivered. So when you spoke about breaking the patterns, breaking old cycles, I think you have given us a clear demonstration of how that is done.
Oh,
The
thank you.
positivity that you have brought out, that everybody has the potential, never think anybody is lesser or cannot do something. You have exhibited this through the way you have delivered it. I leave it to the participants to see that connection of how you have shown what you have spoken, and every single day we can bring it in our system, in our lives. So I am, extremely thankful to you for presenting such a mind-boggling session. All the
Thank you.
16 statements carry so much of power in the way you have brought it out. I also thank the audience for contributing with their thoughts and their sharings. It really added on to the overall understanding and learning and making it more meaningful and memorable. We are going to carry these thoughts, and on behalf of all the participants, I can say that there is a new beginning which starts after this session. Every single day is a new beginning. Like you said, we have the choice. So
Yes.
I feel the change that we want to bring in ourselves, that is our own choice. And that is upon every single individual. If there is any participant who wishes to speak up or write. So there was a question which I would
Mhm.
like to bring to your attention.
Mhm.
Let me just check. It was a question from, um,
It's about apparent negative this thing to
yes, yes,
positive.
yes, a negative situation where you can find a positive intention.
Give me a negative situation. Can someone give me a negative situation? Is it possible? Do you remember any
It's the
negative
one
behavior?
example that you gave where one of your colleagues tries to influence the principal, which affects your job, or the job security is in danger. So how do you take that situation in a positive light?
Let's look at it this way. And if you have this belief, if you have this idea, that installation in your head saying that every behavior has a positive intention, if you have that in your head, then you will actually be looking for the positive intention. You would actually be looking for the positive intention. You start asking yourself this question: "Usne aisa kyun kiya mere saath?" And when you ask that question, your mind is going to give you a lot of negative answers, because she's jealous of you, because she doesn't want you to grow, because she thinks you are a threat to her job, because she thinks that you are very talented and you are very okay. What is the positive intention, or what could be the positive intention behind that apparently negative behavior that she did? Well, maybe she. Ooh, this is a tough one. So maybe she is afraid of my capabilities. That's not very positive. maybe she thinks I'm really capable.
That's what
Maybe
came
she
to me.
thinks I can get a better job somewhere.
Okay.
Maybe she thinks this portfolio for me is too small. Maybe she thinks there are larger things that I can do for myself. You know what? My mom also was saying that. My husband was saying that also. I kept, like shooing him away. Oh, my teachers also said that. I actually got a gold medal in my B.Ed. You see, so what happens is, rather than a downward spiral, you
Wow.
start looking at an upward spiral. You start looking at all these things in your head, and the next time you meet her, you actually go back to her and said, Shalini, thank you, yaar. Because of you, I am who I am today. It allows you to continue that relationship.
Wonderful.
Otherwise, there's no relationship.
Amazing. So it's to avoid any negative thought, but to find the good. Find the
Yeah,
good in everything that happens. So we
yeah,
have to wire our brains in thinking in such a manner that we look for good and we find good. It's not a
yeah,
question about of finding what is wrong with that person,
yeah.
because that
No,
doesn't help us in any way.
no.
Wonderful. I think it was an amazing explanation, and it's up to everyone to look for that good and positive.
Intention.
There cannot be a
Intention.
manual.
Irada. You see, when you're in love, if a guy comes to you and says, I love you, then if someone, so many times the girl says, you never tell me that you love me. आप कभी जिक्र नहीं करते. And then when he says that, you say, अभी क्या फायदा, मैं बोलने के बाद आप बोलते हो. Right? So what it actually means is
We're talking
intention
like,
is more powerful.
we're
Right?
talking like a typical husband will.
so it's about intention. We all look for intention, not behavior.
Oh,
अभी मेरे
true.
लिए क्या आप गोल्ड का पेंडेंट लेके आते हो? जब पूछता हूं तभी लेके आते हो तो कोई भी लाएगा. पूछने के बिना लाना चाहिए ना. But if you look at the positive intention to that, मैं बोलने के बाद भी he went and bought for me, यार. Look at the positive intention in that. So just finding that positive intention really makes a big difference.
I agree with you. So, it's up to us whether we want to choose that negativity in somebody's
Yeah.
intention or we want to find positivity in that.
Yes. Yeah.
So, there is no point in me elaborating on what you have explained because this was absolutely wonderful. Fantastic. And I agree with what Miss Smita, our vice principal, says. It saves us from a lot of unnecessary pain. And I agree.
Yes.
But
Yes.
most of the times we misunderstand. We
Yeah.
misunderstand. And, we unnecessarily blame the person. Or we
Yeah.
live in our own world where we find negativity. So thank you. It was the most amazing session. One of the most amazing sessions we have had at Aadharshila
Thank
Talks
you.
at RRIS. Thank you so much. You are
Okay.
an inspiration to those school owners, those school administrators, CEOs, and the chairman of the schools, etc., who could not think about the teaching fraternity and how to contribute to their personal growth so that they can become better individuals and hence better educators. So having an educator like you, an administrator like you, as a friend personally, is such a great fortune. Thank you so much. Thanks for accepting the invitation. Thanks for being here. Thanks to
Thank
all my friends who have attended today's session. All the best to Mr. George and to all of you.
God bless
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
ma'am. Thank you.